Among all the miscellaneous diseases, cancer and parasitic poisons were the most difficult to deal with. Nash was confident when it comes to treating cancer, but he might not be able to treat a parasitic poison. Hospital equipment could still detect cancer, but poison was undetectable at all. Its treatment was even more difficult. Nash opened the door and prepared to get out of the car. "How confident are you?" Stellar asked again. 20%. Nash laughed without looking back after replying. Stellar went completely silent. After a long while he took a deep breath and asked Mr. Sinclair, "What do you think?" Zachariah replied, "We don't have much time left. It'll be difficult for us to find someone else apart from him." He paused for a bit before turning to look at Nash's back as the men disappeared into the distance. Then he continued, "The fact that he is able to cure old Louis' stomach cancer is enough to show that his medical skills are terrifying." Nash returned to the living room in the villa. Hera was sitting on the sofa and working, her expression sullen. Harrison and Lauren had gone off somewhere else. "You don't seem very happy." Nash plopped down next to Hera and glanced at the promotional poster for the microchip on her laptop. "Our customer loss is serious. Broke is about to go bankrupt." Hera closed the laptop and leaned back on the sofa. "It'd be great if the company could bring in a lithography machine that is capable of producing 7-nanometer chips," she murmured. Nash smiled and asked, "Can't you just buy one?" Hera smiled wryly. "Broke Group won't be losing customers if we could. At present, domestic chip companies can produce 12 to 16 nanometers chips, and Baroque only has a few second-hand 22 nanometers lithography machines. And there is only one 7 nanometers lithography machine in the entire country. This was the cause of Baroque's substantial customer loss." "Is there a difference between a 7 nanometers chip and 22 nanometers chip?" Nash had remained in the mountain all year round and would only occasionally go out to perform the tasks his master assigned. He really did not understand what Hera said. The smaller the chip, the more advanced the processes to make it, but its energy efficiency would also be better. In this era of active smart devices, backward chip technology would only be eliminated from the game, Hera explained patiently. Nash nodded, half understanding. "Is the lithography machine you mentioned just now unavailable for purchase? Our country's technological progress is rapid. To contain us, other countries adopted a technological blockade and banned the export of high-end lithography machines to our country," Hera said helplessly. "Nashi, Hera, are you two not going back to the apartment tonight?" Harrison came down from the second floor at that moment. Hera turned to him and asked, "Dad, how is Grandpa doing now? Is he awake?" Harrison shook his head. "He hasn't woken up yet, but he looks much better. His breathing is also very even now." "That's good." She smiled sweetly, then looked at Nash. "Do you want to go back to the apartment tonight or sleep here?" "Let's not go back yet. I still have something to ask the old man when he wakes up." "What's the matter?" Hera asked curiously. "Of course. It's our lifelong matters," Nash joked. "Is there even a need to ask him? You're going to get your marriage certificate tomorrow," Harrison said. Nash could even cure cancer. He wouldn't want to let slip such a powerful son-in-law. Hera smiled and said, "I wonder who was the one who looked down on Nash yesterday." Harrison blushed. "I didn't look down on him. I just didn't want Helena to marry the Watsons." After exchanging pleasantries, Harrison had Maria lead Nash and Hera to the guest room on the third floor to rest. The villa had 3 floors and there were 4 rooms each. "Hera, Mr. Calcraft, would you like to stay together? Or, different room please? Shall we stay together?" Nash and Hera spoke in unison. Nash was the one who asked to stay separately. Hera looked at Nash in surprise. You really want to stay apart from me?" Chapter 21. Nash smiled. "I'm just showing you respect, lest you have to guard yourself against me tonight." Hera blushed and whined. "Actually, we can stay together, but you can't touch me." What she meant by staying together was that they could share the same bed. She was just not ready for anything to happen between them. "I can't touch you while we sleep together? Are you trying to kill me?" Nash shoved his hands into his pockets and walked into the next room. Hera stood there, stunned. Then, she stomped her feet and said, "Just what is going on in your mind?" Nash entered the room and moved to close the door. Smiling, he replied, "I'm a man, so, of course, I think about what men usually do." Just when the door was about to shut tight, Hera lodged her foot between the door and the frame. Have you never been in a relationship? Nash was puzzled. Why do you ask that? Hera took a deep breath. Have you? Have you never considered that guys should show a little initiative? What do you mean? It's just... Do you not intend to ask me for my contact information or something? That's right. Give me your number. Nash nodded and smiled. Humph. No. Hera pulled her feet back before turning around and going into her room. Nash was stunned for a few seconds. He then closed the door with a bored expression. Lying on the bed, Nash fished out his phone and looked through his contact list. He located Theo's number and called him. At this time, on the top floor of a 99-story building in Capitan, dozens of vividly dressed men, women, and children were having an open-air dinner party. With a wine glass in hand, Lucas Sky said, Sky Corporation's net profit this month has exceeded the 1 billion mark. I hope everyone... Hey, Nash. All right. Don't worry. Leave it to me. Wait. You. What did you just say? Get a 7 nanometers lithography machine? Nash, I can't manage that. It's not something that can be solved with money. Theo answered the call on his phone and could not help retracting his neck when he saw everyone looking at him. Lucas scolded angrily. You bastard. How many times have I told you that your phone must be turned off when I'm speaking? Theo put his hand over the receiver and said with a mournful expression, Nash is looking for me. I don't dare to ignore his call. When Lucas heard that it was Nash, his heart violently twitched. He put down his wine glass and asked with a smile, What is Nash looking for you for? He wants a 7 nanometers lithography machine. That's not impossible. After hesitating for a few seconds, Lucas then said, I have an old friend who's unyielding. It might not be difficult for him to get a 7 nanometers lithography machine. Then, should I agree to Nash first? Theo asked. Yes. What he has done for us is greater than the value of a lithography machine. Lucas smiled. A few years ago, he returned home from abroad with an extremely important product sample. The dark web dispatched 16 powerful hitmen who were among the top 50 powerhouses to assassinate him and get the sample. Nash had protected him using his own power, and the 16 great powerhouses all fell to his iron fists while he only suffered slight superficial wounds. This kind of power was already comparable to the hitmen who stood in the top 10. The Skies offered 1 billion to hire Fred then. Fortunately, Nash refused a huge sum and asked them to help investigate his background instead. After receiving his father's response, Theo quickly said to Nash, Nash, my dad said he'll help you out. A favor? Oh, Nash, you're kidding now. What do you mean by fave? Before he could finish talking, Lucas stepped forward and covered his mouth. He gave Theo a hard look and then grabbed the phone before saying with a smile, Mr. Calcraft, I have to use all of my connections to get this 7 nanometers lithography machine. You have to remember this favor. Chapter 22. For the next 30 years, I can kill one person and save one person for the Sky family. After getting their agreement, Nash hung up the phone. Hera said that there was only one 7 nanometers lithography machine in the entire country, so the Skies were not lying to him. Lithography machines cost a lot of money. It should not be a loss for him to offer his services in exchange for a lithography machine. At dawn the next day, Harrison knocked on Nash's room door when it was still early. Nash got up and opened the door, only to hear Harrison say worriedly, Nashy, my father has woken up. Seeing Harrison's troubled expression, Nash frowned slightly. How is the old man? Expression mournful, Harrison replied, He seems to have lost some of his memories. Nash sighed. The spread of his cancer was quite serious, and some of it even got into his brain. Part of the brain nerves will be damaged with the removal of the cancer, but his condition shouldn't be too serious. Even if it's memory loss, he'll recover them after some follow-up treatment, so it's not a big problem. In the next room, Hera opened the door and walked out with sleepy eyes. Grandpa is awake? Harrison nodded. Go wash up first. You can drop by his room later. 15 minutes later, Nash and Hera were standing in front of the old man's bed. Herman was seated at the head of the bed expressionlessly. Grandpa, you really don't remember Nash? Hera asked in a low voice. I don't. Herman looked at Nash again. His eyes narrowed as he tried to recall the past, but then pain shot through his brain. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face turned grim because of it. Nash comforted softly, saying, "There's no need to force yourself to remember. You'll easily cause further damage to your brain nerves otherwise." Herman sighed. He then looked at Harrison and said, "You said I had late-stage cancer and this kid cured me?" Harrison nodded quickly. "Yes, Dad. You lost a part of your memory because Nash treated you." Herman snorted coldly. "Nonsense. I just went for a physical examination last year and you're telling me I got cancer this year." Even if he got cancer this year, it was impossible for it to become terminal within a year. As if thinking of something, he narrowed his eyes and looked at the three of them. "You lot are trying to kill me and fight each other for the family assets, aren't you?" The expression of Harrison and Hira changed drastically the moment they heard him say that. Harrison hurriedly explained, "Dad, we're telling you the truth. If you don't believe me, you can ask Mr. Dean." Herman was slightly taken aback. "Who's that?" "The director of Johnford Hospital. He is also your former comrade in arms." "I was a soldier?" Herman's eyes widened as if he had heard something incredible. Harrison shook his head helplessly. He turned to Nash and said, "It seems that the old man's memory loss is serious." Nash nodded with a smile. "It really is. But it's just temporary." He looked at the old man then asked, "Do you still remember the Young Family Village?" Apart from the arsonist who started the fire at the Young Family Village, Mr. Lewis might be the only one who knew about it. Why did the old man go the Young Family Village back then? Which family did he belong to? Why did the Kleins, who were as powerful as Capitan, attack a village? Only Herman knew the answers to these questions. Herman frowned and pondered for a long time before he said slowly, "The name sounds familiar, but I can't remember where I heard it." Nash smiled slightly. "It's fine if you don't remember it as long as you find it familiar. The day will come when you remember." Since Mr. Lewis found the name familiar, it meant that the clues from Theo's investigation had not been wrong. Herman glanced at Hira and asked calmly, "Hira, what's your relationship with him?" Chapter 23. He's my fiancé. Hira felt uneasy. All her grandfather's memories about Nash were gone. Would he object to this marriage? He could not. She had to go get the marriage certificate with Nash as soon as possible. Herman pinched the bridge of his nose. "I see. You guys can go do what you need to do. Harrison, get Hubert and his family to come and see me immediately." Hira turned to look at Nash with a helpless expression on her face. "Let's head out first," Nash said. Hira wanted to cry when the two of them were outside. Despite wanting to cry, the tears were not forming. Hira said, "When it rains, it really pours. I think Grandpa will definitely take back the villa in Royal Bay." "It's not like you can't live in the apartment," Nash said with a smile. "Are you stupid? The heads of the households who can live in Royal Bay are either rich or noble. We can benefit a lot if we latch onto just 2 or 3 of them." Hira said angrily, "I'll write up a prescription later to treat the old man's damaged brain nerves as soon as possible so that he might recover his memories soon." "Yes, you must help Grandpa retrieve his memories as soon as possible, otherwise Uncle's family will definitely take advantage of this time to play their tricks." The two walked downstairs while chatting. Maria had prepared breakfast and asked the two of them to have some before they left. Hira ate her breakfast absent-mindedly. Meanwhile, Nash went outside to smoke. He followed the corners and arrived at the security room. The security guard was browsing through lewd videos. The security guard heard knocks on the door and looked up but did not see anyone. Just as he was about to sit back down, he heard knocks on the door again. "Which bastard is disturbing my mood?" The security guard grabbed the baton from the table and walked out. The moment he opened the door, he felt something sting his neck. Then he found himself on the stage of a bar, surrounded by beautiful, sexy women. He grinned dumbly and then danced along. Nash walked into the security room. He opened the cover of the back of his phone and pulled out a data cable before plugging it into the port of the computer's main processor. In less than 3 minutes, he skillfully made a copy of the nearly 3 days' worth of surveillance footage in Lewis Estate. He put away his phone and walked out of the security room. After pulling out the snake-shaped golden needle from the security guard's neck, His figure then disappeared in a flash. The scene in front of the security guard gradually disappeared. He looked at his empty surroundings, the corners of his mouth twitching. Did I jerk off too many times that I hallucinated? Nash returned to the living room of the villa, and Hira was also done with her breakfast. Seeing that Nash had returned, she immediately dragged him outside. My mother asked the two of us to go to the headquarters. He did not ask any questions and just followed Hira outside the estate. A law enforcement vehicle was parked at the gates of the estate. Two law enforcement officers dressed in civilian clothes came up to meet them. The middle-aged law enforcement officer extended his right hand politely and greeted, "Good morning, Mr. Calcraft." Nash smiled slightly and shook hands with him. "Good morning," he replied. The young female law enforcement officer said in a deep voice, "Mr. Calcraft, can we talk to you alone?" "Sure." Nash followed the two law enforcement officers into their vehicle. The female law enforcement officer took out a recording pen, and after switching it on, she informed, "All our conversations will be recorded from now on. Please answer at your own discretion, Mr. Calcraft." Nash was stunned. "Are you interrogating me?" Just as the female law enforcement officer was about to say yes, the middle-aged man immediately explained with a smile, "Mr. Calcraft, don't get us wrong. We're just investigating a case of intentional homicide." Chapter 24. He did not actually believe that this man had anything to do with the murder. However, whatever Nash said yesterday about the perpetrator all turned out to be true. They brought the driver who caused the accident to the hospital for a comprehensive physical examination the night before. And the result of the examination showed that the driver who caused the accident was suffering from advanced uremia. They immediately interrogated the driver overnight. Under intense pressure, the driver confessed some information. The driver who caused the accident suffered from advanced uremia and had to go to the hospital for dialysis every now and then. His long-term dialysis burdened his already impoverished family even more. His wife and children worked from early in the morning till late at night just to earn more money to treat his illness. However, this illness kept burning through money due to the cost of the later treatment getting higher and higher. In order to solve this problem, the driver who caused the accident accepted a task from a special channel. The ins and outs of this matter were exactly as Nash had described yesterday. They even suspected Nash to be in control of the special channel for killers or that he was the mastermind behind the scenes. The female law enforcement officer said indifferently, "First, take out your ID card and let me see it." Nash fished out his ID card from the pocket inside his suit. The female law enforcement officer glanced at it and said coldly, "Is your ID card fake?" The front of a normal ID card usually contained the resident's photo, name, gender, date of birth, address, and ID number. The details on Nash's ID card were in order, but only the words Steely Mountain were written on his address. Nash grinned and said, "I'll cooperate with your investigation. You can check yourself if my ID card is real or fake." The middle-aged man took a look at the ID card and frowned. He then took out an electronic device to check the ID card. Seeing that the ID card was genuine, he handed it to Angelica. "His ID card is fine." There was a look of surprise in Angelica's eyes. This was the first time in her 3 years of service that she came across an ID card with an unclear address. Name: Nash Calcraft. Sex: male. Birth: September 9th, 1999. Address: Teely Mountain. "Is this all correct? Could they be incorrect?" Nash asked. She read it off his own ID card. How could it be fake? Angelica frowned. "Please answer truthfully." "It's correct," Nash replied helplessly. Angelica asked again, "What's your relationship with the Lewis family? How long have you been with them?" Nash replied lightly, "I'm Hira Lewis' fiancé. I just arrived at the Lewis estate the day before yesterday." Both the middle-aged man's and Angelica's expressions changed when they heard that. He only arrived at the Lewis estate the day before yesterday, yet people had already died. Nash must be related to this. The middle-aged man locked the car door and slowly took out the gun from the holster on his waist. Nash could not believe it when Angelica doubted him. If Nash really did it, he would not have questioned the traffic accident yesterday. Angelica took a deep breath. "Nash Calcraft, I need you to go to the police station with us now. I provided you with clues to lead your investigation to the real culprit, and now you're suspecting me instead. Nash said gloomily. Angelica shot back coldly. I suspect you're the perpetrator behind the scenes. Now, we'll subpoena you according to the law. The middle-aged man took out a pair of handcuffs. Just then, a bearded man tapped on the car window from outside. Cracks immediately splintered through the entire window. The middle-aged man's expression darkened. He got out of the car with his gun in his hand and pointed it at the bearded man. "Who are you?" he shouted. Chapter 25. The bearded man tossed a black ID card to him. The middle-aged man glanced at the ID and took a deep breath. He hurriedly put away the gun and raised his hand to salute. "Greetings, Colonel." His voice was shaking. "Frontier Corps." The ranks were divided into privates, sergeants, majors, colonels, and generals, who were also known as the wardens. The man in front of him was obviously a colonel. He was a true overlord who could mobilize more than 300,000 troops. Seeing her boss' behavior through the car window, Angelica could not help but frown. "Captain Holt, this guy looks like a fraud at first glance. Have you ever seen a colonel wandering around alone?" Jupiter raised a brow, finding some sense in Angelica's words. He was about to speak when he saw 5 patrol cars and 3 other cars belonging to political leaders driving over from not far away. The chief of the Johnford Inspection Office and the governor of Johnford got out of the cars and walked over at the same time. Jupiter's eyes abruptly shrank. Now that the governor and his immediate boss had arrived, it seemed that the identity of the colonel had been confirmed. In the car, Angelica was also frightened by the platoon. What was with this situation? Was he really a colonel? Why was he knocking on their car window? Angelica looked at Nash in shock. Was the colonel here for Nash? The chief of the Johnford Inspection Office, the governor, and the group of dignitaries greeted Stellar at the same time. Stellar frowned slightly. "Who told you to come? Didn't I say I won't be seeing anyone?" The governor of Johnford smiled awkwardly. "Colonel, we wish to meet the warden," Stellar scoffed. "Do you think just anyone can meet the warden so easily? Get lost." The intensity of his authority shocked the governor and the chief, driving them a few steps back. Wiping away their cold sweat, the two of them immediately led their people and evacuated the area. Hera had just turned around after ending her call, only to see that Nash still had not gotten out of the car. There were still matters to be attended to at the company, so she hurried over to the patrol car and asked, "Nash, why are they looking for you?" Nash smiled and replied, "It's nothing. They're just asking about Hannah." Hera looked at the 2 law enforcement officers and said, "You can ask me and my family about Miss Hannah. Nash just arrived at the Lewis estate less than 2 days ago. He doesn't know anything." Jupiter wiped away his cold sweat and answered with a smile, "All right, let's head inside." He then opened the door and said, "Mr. Calcraft, you can leave the car now." Since the colonel had mentioned specifically that he wanted to take Nash away, why would he not follow his wishes? Nash stepped out of the car. He looked at Stellar and asked, "Is he here?" Stellar shook his head and said, "I came to you to ask for your contact information." Nash smiled. He stretched out his hand and said, "Give me your phone." Stellar took out a special satellite phone. Nash accepted it and input his number. Once he was done, he returned the phone. Stellar put the phone back into his pocket without even looking at it. He then reminded him, "My boss will arrive in Johnford in 3 days. Be prepared. You must be on call within 3 days." Nash nodded and said, "I understand." His master had once taken him to the border defense in the southern region. At that time, his teacher had treated the warden of the southern region's disease for free. After that, his teacher warned him that he would stand to gain from helping fulfill the aspirations and healing the ailments of those who had made great contributions to the country. Nash never understood what he meant by either of that, though. Stellar went toward the Rolls-Royce parked in the distance without looking back. Nash turned his head and glanced at the cracks in the patrol car, his eyes flickering slightly. There had not been any fluctuations in Stellar's inner energy, but even without it, he managed to break the window. The fact that he was able to do that meant that his strength should be higher than that of a grandmaster. He could not really put a finger on his cultivation, though. He probably practiced some kind of breathing technique that allowed him to hide his breath. "Captain Holt, what should we do now?" Chapter 26. Angelica cautiously looked at Holt and his squadron. This case was very difficult with how strong this guy's backing was. Jupiter heaved a sigh of relief. Let's head to the Lewis estate to look for clues first. He's not someone we can touch before we find conclusive evidence. The colonel mentioned his boss just now. Anyone with half a brain would know who he was referring to. There was tremendous pressure, and it turned his legs into jelly. Nash looked at the two of them and said, "It's getting late. I'll go back with you. But you can't keep me for too long." Angelica returned Nash's ID card to him and said lightly, "You'd better not be involved in this, otherwise I'll definitely bring you to justice no matter how big your backer is." With that said, the two of them walked toward Lewis estate side by side. Nash admired Angelica's work ethic, but she seemed to have a few screws loose. If he really was the perpetrator, he would not have spoken so much yesterday and made this case a prolonged traffic accident. Hera pulled Nash's sleeve and dragged him to the side of the road. "There are some troublesome things to be dealt with at the company, so let's go back there first." Since they did not drive here yesterday, they could only take a cab over. No cab stopped for them despite them trying to flag one down for a long time. Hera thought of the bearded men just now and turned to Nash asking, "Who is that bearded old man just now?" "An old friend," Nash replied. Smiling partially, she asked again, "Who is he? Is he rich?" Nash shook his head. "I don't think he has that much money. That car is probably also a rental." Stellar was a colonel, but his salary was not actually that much. The car certainly did not belong to him. Hera sighed in disappointment. Nash asked with interest, "Do you like money so much?" Hera was slightly taken aback. Is there anyone who doesn't like money? Nash was stopped by Hera's own question in return. He had helped his teacher earn billions. In the end, his teacher asked him to donate it all to the impoverished mountainous areas. He did not even have any travel expenses every time he came down the mountain. In order to go abroad to perform tasks, he had to work part-time at construction sites for half a month just to earn travel expenses. The last time he came down from the mountains, his teacher left just about $10 for him. He had also asked his teacher before why he donated all the money. His teacher only responded by saying that money was something outside of the body, and that those who practice the path should elevate themselves above the world, be content with poverty, and strive for virtue, as well as have no demands or desires of the world. His teacher therefore belonged in the category of people who did not like money. Influenced by his teacher, Nash, too, had no interest in money. Thinking this, Nash said, "I don't like money." Hera smirked and asked, "Is this the reason why you can't make money?" Nash turned to look at her. "To be honest, I make money very easily. If someone asks me to make a move once, it would all start at 150,000, he said seriously. The 100 phone numbers that he had stored in his contact list were all his former beneficiaries. Every beneficiary was a shocking existence. If needed, these beneficiaries would definitely give him a hand. Start at 150,000. Do you not have the concept of how much $150,000 is? Hera could not help but look at Nash with a smile while still maintaining a dubious attitude toward what he said. One could not claim that Nash had no skills as he was adept in both medical and martial arts. However, it was hard to say that he was capable because he still could not afford a decent set of clothes. Just then, a cab stopped in front of them. Hera grabbed Nash's sleeve, and they both got into the car. "I'm just kidding. Don't think too much about it. The company might be facing a downturn, but I can still afford to support you." Not long after the two left. Chapter 27. Helena and her family rushed to the villa. The family of three arrived at the old man's room. Seeing that the old man had woken up, the three of them were absolutely depressed. Herman glanced at the three calmly, then said to Harrison, "Harrison, go out first." Harrison sighed before slowly turning around and heading out of the room in a lonely manner. After 2 hours, Helena's family of three walked out of the room with smiles on their faces. The old man had put on a gray traditional garb and combed his hair back. He looked completely refreshed. Seeing that his father was not even using a cane anymore, a smile made its way onto Harrison's face. "Harrison, Dad wants to go take a walk at Rococo. Would you like to come along?" Hubert asked Harrison with a smile. Without even waiting for Harrison to answer, Herman said calmly, "You should go back to Baroque. My body's already recovered. You don't have to look for me if you don't need anything else. Yes, Dad. Harrison smiled bitterly. The old man had lost part of his memory, and his focus had once again returned to his eldest brother's family again. The situation was not looking good for him. Herman followed Hubert's family out of the villa and happened to see two law enforcement officers outside. Angelica stepped forward politely. Hello, Mr. Lewis. We're from the Criminal Investigation and Inspection Office and would like to ask you some things. Is it convenient for you? No, it's not. My father has important matters to attend to at the company. Hubert immediately went up to stop the two of them. Helena and her mother quickly helped Herman into the car. Angelica's expression changed. She was about to retort when Jupiter stopped her. Haste makes waste. Let's wait here for them to come back. Both Herman and Hubert were entrepreneurs in Johnford and had incredible influence. If they wanted to ask them anything, they could only abide by their time. Hubert got into the car. Helena then stepped on the accelerator, and they left quickly. Herman asked suspiciously, "Why are the people from the inspection office looking for us?" Rooney pursed her lips and said, "It's probably because of Hannah." Chapter 28. Herman frowned and then recalled that he did not see her this morning. Hannah went to pick up her nephew yesterday and got into a car accident on the way back, Hubert explained. What? Herman's expression abruptly changed. How are they doing now? He asked hurriedly. Hubert wiped his eyes and choked. They both died. The driver who caused the accident has been caught, and we've already taken care of Hannah's funeral. Herman sighed heavily. Hannah has worked in our family for more than 20 years. Now that this has happened, you lot can't treat her family poorly. Don't worry, Dad. We'll take care of it. Rooney, didn't my younger brother and sister pay $140,000 in advance? Give her $210,000 later, Hubert said gently. Rooney pursed her lips and muttered, "How can such a cheap life be worth that much? The driver's insurance company can take care of it. So why do we have to pay?" Herman frowned. "What are you mumbling about?" Helena noticed the old man getting angry through the rearview mirror and quickly said, "My mother said she'll transfer the money immediately." Her mother had never gone to school and did not use her brain much every time she spoke. Was it not obvious that grandfather would get mad at such words? Only then did Herman's expression soften a little. "Hubert, call Mr. Zoel and sell the villa in Royal Bay." Hearing this, Hubert was overjoyed. He suppressed the excitement he felt and said with a smile, "Dad, it's hard to find a villa in Royal Bay since you already bought it. Why don't you leave it to be Helena and Kai's home after their wedding?" Herman had learned that Helena and Kai were together and felt gratified. If Helena married the Watson family, their family could also be brought along to glory. Hearing what Hubert said, he immediately agreed. "Do as you wish, then." Chapter 29. A flash of hostility shot through Herman's eyes. Bastards! How dare they lie to me? He then stormed out of the office building. Hubert took out his phone to call his daughter. "Has Mr. Zoel settled everything?" he asked. "It's done, Dad. Get someone to destroy all the surveillance footage of Lewis Estate immediately." "Okay. I'll arrange for it right away." At Broke's headquarters, Hera brought Nash to the president's office. Harrison and Lauren were sitting on the sofa with sad expressions. Lauren was dressed in professional attire. She was nearly 50 years old, yet her skin was well maintained. It was as if she was in her 30s. "Dad, Mom." Hera greeted them and sat on the opposite sofa. "Uncle, Aunt." Nash also sat beside Hera. Harrison and his wife looked at the two and then at each other with even more sorrowful expressions. Hera asked softly, "Did something happen again?" Harrison sighed. "Your grandfather took back the villa in Royal Bay." Hera smiled dumbly. "I already guessed it." Lauren looked at Nash and said, "Nashy, do you have any special means of restoring the old man's memory quickly?" Nash frowned and pondered for a moment before replying, "The only way to treat him is with holistic medicine, and that'll take about a month." Lauren smiled bitterly. "His memory loss has no effect on you. But Hubert's family is secretly scheming, so you're likely going to be kicked out of the family." Hera grabbed Nash's hand and said with red eyes, "Then what should we do now?" Nash smiled and responded, "The only thing now is to wait for the old man to recover his memory." Saying that, He took out a pen and paper and wrote down a prescription. He passed it to Harrison. This prescription can repair the nerves in Mr. Lewis' brain. Harrison accepted the prescription and asked with a wry smile, "Will he take your medicine?" Nash shook his head. "No. So it's up to you to find a way to get him to." Harrison received a call from Herman at this moment. Herman said not at all tactfully, "Harrison, I'll head over to Baroque and your home for an inspection in 2 days. I don't want to see that wildling." Harrison had put him on loudspeaker. Hera heard her grandfather's domineering voice and could not help but grip Nash's hand tighter. Harrison looked at Nash helplessly. The old man held 40% of Baroque's shares, so he dared not disobey his wishes. Nash noticed the troubled expression on Harrison's face and nodded calmly. Only then did Harrison respond, "Yes, Chairman." His father's transformation had brought them to the highest peak from the abyss, only to propel them back to hell. Herman heard Harrison calling him chairman and snorted coldly. "Also, I'll ask Helena to get the Watsons to help you restart your partnership with Drake Group. If you fail to seize this opportunity again, don't blame me for turning my back on you." After saying this, he ended the call. Harrison put down his hand slowly with a look of misery on his face. If it were back then, he would be delighted to be able to work with Drake Group. However, they had to now rely on Helena to restart the partnership with Drake Group through the Watsons. It was like he was accepting alms from his elder brother's family. Lauren took out a bank card from her bag and handed it to Nash. "Nashy, you should avoid the limelight for now. There's about $200,000 in this card. Just treat it as your living expenses for this month."